Well, folks, here we are again for the weather forecast for this next 7-day period. But before we get to that forecast, let's take a retrospective look at this past week. Of course, last weekend we've seen some cool air move into the region, which marked the second consecutive weekend where we see that type of a trend. And maybe this is a sign that we're finally going to break this overall heat pattern as we move toward the fall period. The intensity of this heat does not seem to be lasting as long as it was during the July period when we were pretty much locked into place. So we did see a gradual warm up as the week progresses, and it peaked out in the middle of the week where we've seen some 100-degree readings across portions of eastern Nebraska. We also see some scattered thunderstorm activity in northern and eastern Nebraska, and in fact a couple tornado reports were also indicated. Isolated in nature, we did see some locations receive some fairly welcome rainfall, other locations high and dry. Now, as we go forward, there are several chances of precipitation moving through this next 7-day period, with the best opportunity for a widespread precipitation event coming in the midweek period. So let's take a look at the upper air models and see what we can expect as we go through this next 7 days. And as we go to the upper air models, the one thing I'll draw your attention to is we do have this trough that was responsible for bringing the cool air into eastern Nebraska is firmly set up across the Great Lakes region. And another piece of energy is going to ride toward the southeast along the periphery of the ridge that is to our southwest, and that may generate some scattered thunderstorm activity across north central northeast Nebraska during the first half of the day. Some of that activity may make its way down into east central and southeast Nebraska, but it looks to be very isolated if it does. Most of this moisture will really start to generate itself as we get over Iowa and points to the east, so they could be looking at a very welcome and widespread rain event. For today, the highs are going to be primarily in the upper 90s across the southwest. In the northeast, close to this cool air, we'll be looking at low 80s. And as we go into tomorrow, we'll notice that that energy still is in place, and so we expect the widespread precipitation to persist. Here in Nebraska, just isolated chances for scattered thunderstorm and shower activity across northeast and east central Nebraska, pretty much high and dry elsewhere. We'll be again looking at highs in the mid-90s to upper 90s across the southwest. Northeast will definitely be in the low 80s. Now, as we go into Monday, it looks like the main precipitation will move into the Great Lakes, and anything that does move through this flow will just generate scattered, isolated thunderstorms during the late afternoon hours, and it's going to be very widespread in nature. We'll be looking at highs that again will be in the low 80s across the northeast, and we'll be looking at again the mid-90s predominantly across the southwestern part of the state and possibly the southern panhandle. As we go into Tuesday, the warm air starts to lift back toward the north, so we might bump our temperatures up into the mid-80s across the northeast, looking at the mid to upper 90s across the southwest. Not much in the way of any precipitation. By the time we get into Wednesday, we're going to be looking at a cold front trying to make its way into the northern plains, and so we'll have our warmest day of the week, which will mean temperatures in the mid to upper 90s across the southwest with possibly a couple 100-degree readings in the southwest. And we'll be approaching the low 90s across the northeast with chance for afternoon thunderstorms as we see a piece of energy moving in the flow across the state during the afternoon hours. The main event occurs as we get into Thursday as that cold air starts to push southward. We're going to see some substantial relief in terms of temperatures. We'll be looking at highs in the low 80s across the north, the low 90s across the south. With thunderstorms expected to generate as this cold air pushes southward, we could see some pretty widespread precipitation somewhere in the state, and it may actually be heavy in certain locations. And as we get into the day on Friday, very cool conditions as we'll be looking at highs that will primarily be in the low 70s across the northeast to the low to mid 80s across the southwest. 8 to 14-day forecast indicates that warm air moves to our east, cool air to our northwest. Precipitation, we're looking at substantial precipitation across the northern plains. Some of that might make it into Nebraska. The below normal precipitation stays from the southeast all the way down into Texas.